The one, the only Eugene Robinson is back. Eugene, how are you, man?
Hey, Bob, I'm doing wonderful, Bob. Thank you very much. Thanks for the intro.
You got it. You deserve it. And what's that? I mean, you're a man that's you've received a lot of accolades, a lot of praise throughout your life, your career. What does this one mean to you?
This is really special. You know what? My time in Seattle has been incredible from '85 to '95, and the fact that I was mentored by Dave Brown, who I know is the corner that's in, and also mentored by Ken Easley, is only fitting that I'm in there with them, and and to be counted among those guys. I mean, as far as the hitting, the ferocity, the interceptions, be counted among those guys. I feel very, very privileged to be voted in that 50. I mean, this is a great honor, and I'm humbled.
Well, Gene, you were an awesome free safety, man. I mean, you had 9 interceptions one year, 57 total interceptions. That's
how many more is that than you?
That's let's see. Let me do the math here. He got me by just a slim margin of 54 interceptions. But Eugene, I mean, the other thing is you were all over the field. I remember there was 2 years where I was like, I think I might be the leading tackler. Nope. Eugene always had like 3, 4 more. But hey, tell us about. You mentioned Dave Brown, and I talked a lot about what we called the first version of the Legion of Boom, and that was Dave Brown, John Harris, and some of those
Kenny
older guys.
Harris, Dave Brown, Keith Simpson. That was the first Legion of Boom, if you will.
Kenny Easley. So tell us, did you come in contact with? I know you played a little bit with Dave Brown, but how about the other guys? And what did you learn?
In '85, when I first got there, John Harris was the free safety, Ken Easley strong safety, Keith Simpson and Terry Taylor were corners, but Dave Brown was that left corner, and he was an anchor there. And every one of those guys would get interceptions. They all got interceptions all the time, and they always were around the ball. And I remember asking John Harris, I said, dude, why are you always around the ball? And he told me, football is an academic game. It's about the academics of football. If you know where to be academically, he said, then you can use your skill. But if you don't know where to be, now you better have great skill or you won't make plays. And so I prided myself on studying to make sure I knew where to be at. And when I would study, I would go over to Dave Brown's house every Wednesday and Thursday and break down tape on that VHS tape that it was like 6-hour tape. And so I'll break down film on that. And I had the encouragement of watching those guys play and watching them play as a group and watching them play off each other and watching them compliment each other. It was phenomenal. And I was like, man, I need to be a part of this, and I need to soak up as much information as I can while I have my time here with them. I didn't know how long I was going to last, but to be counting them on Ken Easley was ferocious. Everybody talks about Cam Chancellor, and I know he's a ferocious hitter, but Ken Easley was like downright mean, dude. He was mean, and Ken Easley had like 38, 40 interceptions in his career. John Harris, 50 interceptions. Dave Brown, 62. Myself, 57. I mean, when you think about that, Keith Simpson was maybe around 20. If you talk about that original Legion of Boom, all they did was get interceptions. All they did was make plays, and it was built on that secondary. The secondary was like the hub and the team, if you will, from that standpoint. And they've always had a great secondary, and I was among those guys and played among those guys, and I counted a privilege. They were outstanding. John Harris doesn't get the credit he deserves, but I'm going to give John Harris his flowers. He was absolutely incredible free safety.
Gene, your first year, as you said, '85, you didn't start, according to Pro Football Reference, you played 16 games, but you didn't start any. You still had 2 picks that year. What was your rookie year like for you? Do you remember? Were you overwhelmed? Were you in awe? Were you nervous, scared? How long did it take before you felt at home?
Hey, Dave, I was just so nervous. Didn't want to make a mistake. I remember Chuck Knox coming up to me when I made a mistake on special teams, and I think it was Randall Morris. Randall Morris got leveled on a kickoff return, and I was supposed to convert it, and I didn't. I can hear Rusty Tillman on the sideline go, Eugene Robinson! He's screaming my name. I'm going, oh, man, I think that was my guy. And they took my man out on a stretcher with the ambulance. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. The next day, Monday, Chuck Knox comes up to me and says, hey, I can get anybody to play your position, anybody. anybody off the street. He said, a word to the wise is sufficient. You better pick it up. Ooh. That's all he said to me the entire year. He just told me, I'm about to fire you, and you about to get fired because you got a guy hurt. And so he said, you better know what you're doing next time and make sure that you convert and make sure that you make the right play. I said, man, I studied, I read, I made sure I was not going to make a mistake again. So that year, I was basically a special teams player, and I would play on third down, come in as a weak side linebacker in our dime defense and cover the third and fourth receiver. So I was that guy. And then when Ken Easley and Paul Moyer got hurt on the very same play, the third to last game of the season, they bring me in against Kansas City. And that's when I started. And when I started, I ended up getting an interception, having maybe just 12 tackles and a forced fumble, something like that. Had crazy stats in the second half. And next thing you know, I'm the guy.
Hey, tell us a little bit about, you just brought back some memories for me with Chuck Knox. And, I used to say, he's like, I've never been to the Vatican or to the Louvre or anything like that. But, they said that, or I used to say that he was like the Mona Lisa. Mm-hmm. Like wherever you stand, he's looking at you.
The eyes are following.
Yeah, exactly. And like you always thought Chuck was talking about you, and he would always say, I don't remember if you remember this, Eugene. He'd go, this guy over here, he thinks he's watching film. He's just watching the game. And I'm like, oh, damn, maybe that's me, or this guy over here. And you always thought he was talking about you, but like that was like the one guy you didn't want to hear from, right?
That's the one guy. I'm telling you, Chuck Knox would do these kind of Chuck Knoxism. He's like this. He said, don't tell me what you're going to do. He said, just bring the ship on in now, see? Yeah. He said, well, I got this one guy over here. He's holding the man. You're holding. And he's looking around, and he had an uncanny way of making incredible eye contact with everybody. And I'm sitting there going like this. I'm not on the offensive line. I didn't hold anybody. I'm not on the offensive line. But you thought he was talking to you. And so he would say like this. He would always say something like, that's third grade Swickley. I'm like, third grade Swickley? What's he talking about? He's talking about he learned this in the third grade in Swickley, Pennsylvania, to go ahead and be deep as the deepest and wide as the widest. And that's what he told me. He said, look, son, you got to be deep as the deepest, wide as the widest. That's third grade Swickley. That's third grade Swickley. I'm going, is he talking to me? I think he's talking to me. And everybody would say the same thing. I think Chuck was talking to me. I'm like, he had this uncanny way. And believe it or not, when I speak to this day, when I do speaking engagements, I do a lot of Chuck mannerisms and a lot of things that Chuck would do. I would make incredible eye contact with everybody, and I would talk directly to a group of people, and you would think that I'm talking to you specifically. I learned that from Chuck Knox. Yeah. And then I would go and say a little whisper he would do, and every time when I whisper, everybody would almost automatically lean in to hear what he's got to say. And so I would do that. So I learned a lot of my speaking from Chuck Knox, how he would handle the team. And that's what I learned. And from Ken Easley, from Steve Largent, from Jeff Kemp, we all would say the same thing. I think Chuck was talking about me, but I know I wasn't holding.
Hey, Gene, 16 years in this league, and I'm looking at your game. You were a guy that just didn't miss time. You were out there game in, game out. Is there a moment? I know you had 3 Pro Bowls under your belt. Is there a moment, a game, a season that you reflect on and say that was the peak? That's when I felt the best. That's when I played the best. That's the one I remember the most. I cling to the most. Any point in your career stand out that way?
Yeah, there was one game against the Pittsburgh Steelers that it was a cold game, and Neil O'Donnell was the quarterback, and we're playing up in Pittsburgh, and I had 3 interceptions, and I was fooling the quarterback, Neil O'Donnell, with my movement. Like, if I was going to blitz, I would act like I'm not going to blitz, and I don't blitz. And if I was going to drop in coverage, I'm going to act like I'm going to blitz. Or if I'm going to go move to the middle of the field in third coverage, I would be like in the cover 2 where I'm going to look like half field. And so I would get there, and the fact that I was able to fool him 3 consecutive times and get 3 interceptions that game, that was big for my career because it started to establish me as, man, this guy is a guy who not only studies the game, but a guy who's able to go ahead and get interceptions. So that year, I forget what year it was, maybe 1993. I think that year, maybe it was 93.
Yeah, you had 9 picks that year.
Yeah, I said that year against the Pittsburgh Steelers, I kind of felt like, oh, man, I belong. And there was another time against the Raiders when Ronnie Lott was playing for the Raiders. I got an interception against Alexander Wright, and it was Jay Schroeder threw this ball about maybe 65 yards down the field on a post. I dive out, I catch the ball, I run it back about 40-something yards, and as I get back, I look, and I'm a big Ronnie Lott fan. Ronnie Lott was looking at me, and he gave me a thumbs up from the sideline.
Oh,
and I said to myself, man, that's Ronnie Lott now. Ronnie Lott is one of my favorite safeties. He and Ken Easley are my two favorite safeties. Yeah. And for him to do that in that game, he kind of like, it was like a coordination. It was like saying, man, Gene, you're that guy. Yeah. And so when I believe that I was that guy now, and I believe that there was no ball that I shouldn't be able to get. There's no play I shouldn't be able to make. There's no tackle I shouldn't be able to make. There's nowhere that I should be fooled. I started to believe that, and my game just changed.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you who did that for me. You. I remember my first year starting, Gene, 1988, and we were getting ready to play the Patriots, and they had some kind of, seam route. And so I covered it every time in practice, and I think I had like 3 interceptions in practice. And I remember before the game, you getting up and pointing to me and going, this man had 3 interceptions, and I was like, that was my first year as a starter, and I was like, oh, man, I'm one of them now. I mean, that was one of those moments for me. And I don't know, I mean, when did you get a sense that you had that kind of leadership ability? I mean, you played for a long time and some Pro Bowls, but when did you, I mean, if you ask me, I would say 1988 because that was the year that happened. But what do you think?
So I guess I think when the 1993 and 92 season, going to 93 and 93 and going to 94, I played extremely well. And I started getting recognition from other safeties across the league and from other coaches of being that guy. Yeah. And even when I got traded to Green Bay, and none of those guys knew me, when I would be in practice and I'm getting interceptions, they'd go like this, hey, man, who is this cat right here? And they because I thought I was just an old guy. Right. And so from that standpoint, my validation probably came from me in 1992, around that season, where I was always playing a really good ball, but my game just went to a different level. It went to a different level academically, and I just thought, Dave, I could make every play. Every play indeed. There's no play I thought I couldn't make, and I didn't think that there was no running back I couldn't tackle, no quarterback I couldn't sack. I just said, I'm that guy, and I'm going to make these plays. And when I started to believe that and feel that way, it just changed. It changed my entire game. My entire game changed. And from every team I played on, from Atlanta to Seattle to Green Bay, or even with Carolina, my game just changed, and I felt like I was that guy.
What was that like to be traded? You were with the Seahawks for 11 seasons, and then you get traded to Green Bay. In your first year, I'm looking at your number. You had 6 picks your first year in Green Bay, so you had a nice year. Your first year there. Was that a shock? Did you know it was coming? How did that go down?
Well, see, Reggie White calls me up. He calls me up during the end of that season, the 95 season, and says, Gino, do you want to go? You want to play for the Green Bay Packers? I said, man, Reggie, who's this? Reggie? I said, Reggie, you just can't call people up and ask them because they play for their team. I said, it doesn't work that way, man. You go through a process. He said, man, the Lord told me to tell you you're going to be a Green Bay Packer. Right? So then I went to the management. I said, hey, man, Reggie White gave me a call and said that I was going to be on the Green Bay Packers, that they were going to trade for me. They said, no, Gene, there's no truth to that. And that was the time that we got Dennis Erickson came in the regime. Darrell Williams was his guy, Robert Blackman. I knew they couldn't keep 3 top safeties. So the next thing you know, I got traded to Green Bay. And so when I got down to Green Bay and I got traded to Green Bay, I said, I know these guys don't know me. They think I'm just an old guy. They think I'm just a guy that's like, hey, he's a throwaway. He's a stopgap. I'm going to show these cats that I'm that dude. And so in practice, when we have live sessions, I would blow cats up. They're like, man, that dude hit that hard. I'm like, yeah, I can hit. And I'm getting interceptions. I'm doing all this stuff. And they go like this, hold up, who is this dude? And then I told them this. I said, look, this is what I do. I'm going to get people in the right position, Leroy Butler. I'm going to get you in the right position. I'm going to get the corners in the right position, and we're going to make plays on the ball. That's what we're going to do. I said, you guys only had like 9 interceptions last year. I said, we're going to change that whole the whole narrative. We're going to have about 30 interceptions. And I would make them stay after practice, and we would catch them in the judging machine. And next thing you know, we had like 32 picks that year.
Yeah. Wow. That's good. The only thing Eugene couldn't do was play a saxophone. But other than that, I mean.
Hey, Wyman, I could play it now, and I got so much better at it too, Wyman.
I'm just teasing you. I mean, you had to start somewhere, and
when you played in the locker room,
you start playing in the dorms, and yeah. Yep. I mean, I'm just joking. It wasn't that bad, but I know
it wasn't that bad.
I know that you stayed on it, and of course, just like the competitor you are, you got good at it, right?
Yeah, so that's what I did. I mean, I'm always been so competitive, and here's the other thing. I've always been an underdog. When I first came in the league, I weighed like 175 to 80 pounds, and Steve Larger used to always say, "Man, does your mother know that you're here?" I look like I'm about 15 years old, and so it's like, man, this guy looks like he shouldn't be here. And so I'm a free agent. I'm not supposed to be there, and I'm like, I got to go ahead and make my mark, and I had to make my mark special teams, and the fact that I was a hard-working guy, and then I was much faster on the field than I was just in my regular 40 times. Rusty Tillman loved me because I was always making plays for him. He's like, man, I want Robinson here. I'm making plays. Whether I was on the defense or offensive side of the ball, I was always making plays, and I loved it.
Well, Gene, I got to think that one of the more satisfying things in your career had to be your first year in Atlanta. You were a Pro Bowler at the age of 35 years old, which in football years, you're an old guy. In life, obviously a very young man, but that had to be incredibly sad. You had 4 picks that year for the Falcons, your first year there. You're a Pro Bowler. How satisfying was that?
Man, it was exciting. I mean, we ended up going to the Super Bowl that year, but what was exciting there is that those guys didn't know me, and they had no idea. They were good. I mean, they had a really good front. They had a good linebacking core, but our secondary, we was kind of like a little hodgepodge. It was me, Will White, Ray Buchanan, Rodney Butler. But we had some guys that we were good, but we didn't play together. And so when I got there, I'm like, hey, we're gonna play together. We're gonna go ahead and catch the ball. So I would make people catch the ball after practice. I would make sure that we studied, and I would make sure I said, look, if I call a play, if I change this play, just trust me. Just do what I'm telling you to do. Just trust me. I said, and if you don't make the tackle, I guarantee you I'm going to make the tackle. Guaranteed. And so they trusted me. And I would always say, hey, we're about to go ahead and bust people up. We're going to go ahead and stuff a mud hole on them. We're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to do this. I said, just take our lead and follow. Yeah. And they believed it. They believed in me.
Yeah, well, it paid off. A Super Bowl appearance and then a Pro Bowl appearance, obviously, at the age of 35. Very cool. Eugene Robinson, one of the greatest Seahawks of all time, one of the top 50. It's official. He's one of the top 50 to ever put on that Seahawks uniform, and he's been our guest here. Gene, always a pleasure to speak with you. Congratulations on this honor. It is well-deserved, and I know the fans love hearing from you. And Dave is always speaking incredibly highly of you anytime I bring up your name. So it's really cool to get you on the show, as always, and really appreciate your time.
Anytime you want me on the show, I'm there. Thanks, Wyman. I appreciate you, dog. Love you, dog.
Love you, buddy. All right.
All right, buddy. All right, take care, buddy.
There you go. There he is, everybody. Eugene Robinson, one of the top 50 Seahawks of all time.